down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Oh, Section 8, that's what we're talking about today. November the 15th. And I just got some questions about Section 8 from a great friend of mine. And this is it. And this is an interesting subject. And so I was like, man, I know I did a podcast on it a long time ago. And sure enough, back October 28th, 2015, episode number 30, Section 8 Pros and Cons for the savvy investor. Ooh. Well, anyway, I went back and kind of listened to it for a minute, and I can tell you my tone of voice and my heart was not in at that moment. I mean, it's so funny because today, my team, we are on our way to a property because we just got 4 pages of an inspection of repairs. And they came to me and said, Stephen, what do you want to do? And I was like, whoa. Now, when you get 4 pairs, and if you haven't done this before, 4 pages, and you haven't done this before, it just sounds like money, $100 a page, of repairs. And I started looking at it. First of all, you got to calm down, you got to sit down, and you got to relax. And the things that they want for you to repair, indicate a lot. So let's get into that here in a minute. So I'll end the episode on what's going on a property and how I'm going to deal with it, and we'll go from there. So hopefully the things I'm going to talk about, this is off the cuff. This is just random. There's no thought in these. This is just RAW. The subject is Section 8. A friend asked me a question. Here we go. Number one, this individual said, where do I begin? Well, first of all, wherever you want to begin, you got to have a plan. Okay, that's like going on a trip. That's being married. I don't care who you have, but what are you trying to do? Now, if you're doing desperate things for desperate measures, you're going to get stung because you can't rent this property out. That doesn't mean Section 8 is your savior. That, like, money's just not going to flow from the tree because you have a house that you're just busy and you have a full-time job and you got 10 kids and you can't rent it out because you live an hour away. Remember that. So, I always, and I'm just talking from experience. I had an awesome property that was really hot, and I just fired my property manager. And this is actually beginning of the year, and I was having some problems, and I couldn't rent it out. And I'm like, this is a really good house. And I went and looked at this house, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I called my mentor, and he's like, it looks like you don't have a house problem. It looks like you have a management problem. And I was going to dump this house. I was like, what's going on? Do I need to and it's not the house that I like. The bedroom was kind of janky because it opened up into the garage. It was kind of weird, but I was like, I wouldn't live here, but actually eventually it rented out. And I dug a little deeper. I put a little bit of pressure on that property management at the time, and we rented it out, and it's been solid. See, but I was insecure because it was sitting for 2 months, maybe because I didn't have the right property manager. Maybe it smelled like dookie when you walked in. There's so many variables. So you got to understand, what's our plan. If it's to rent it out, that is our plan, VanCauwenbergh. Well, Section 8 may be an alternative. And if it was me, I would definitely list almost every property on Section 8. But you got to understand what you're getting into when you do Section 8. So let me tell you right now. So if you do put it on Section 8, you're going to get bombarded by emails and phone calls and scenarios. That's just going to happen. And you can put it on this website called gosection8.com. It's a free website, GOSection8, SECTION, and the numeric 8.com. You should list it on there anyway. Now, keep in mind, you're going to get barraged by calls and emails. And so it feels great, but you really have to get your Dick Tracy mode on, and you got to vet these people out. Let me tell you something. You can find a couple, a single lady that has 1 child, or a senior citizen that is clean, that is just in a hard place, that need assistance. They're out there. That's what this program was created. But at the same time, there are some generational people that know how to work the system. For example, let me give you one. I was relatively new in Section 8, and here in Oklahoma, there's 2 Section 8 offices. You got to keep that in mind. There's the OHFA, Oklahoma Housing FA something, or OFFHA. And there's the traditional government Section 8. That's called 4th Street. And this other one's on 63rd Street. So there's two different Section 8 providers in the city of Oklahoma City. Now this, if you're in a rural town, is probably only one. And if you're in another state, there may be three. There may be two. There may be a private organization that funds people. So each one has their own way of doing inspections and have their own expectations, or the loopholes, or the hula hoops or hurdles that the individual that is applying for this program have to go through. So for example, let me give you an example. I don't know, like the 4th Street one is maybe their inspection is every other year. And that was a law that was kind of passed down, I think, federally, because it was an inspection that was every year. And inspections are good and bad. It depends on what your mindset is and how you look at it. But another office may be required to have the inspection every year. Keep in mind, everything that you do costs you money. So maybe, let's just revisit and like, what's wrong with your property? I would start there. Is it too high of rent? Is it too low of rent? What's the situation? I personally, I undercut people, and when you get to a certain level, that's really not necessarily a positive or a good thing, because the bank actually does a ratio on your rents. If you're under rented, then that does affect you. But if you only have 10 or 15 or 20 houses or even 50, I don't even think that's a concern. But if you're over 100 units, it is a big ratio that if your whole portfolio is under rented, that affects all of your numbers. You as a successful, if you're going to be a serious investor, you've got to get current rent, and you got to think that way. Now, you may consider incentives, a free TV to move in, or a $100 gift card, or a free month's rent. But you need to have these ideas in place. Now, when you do this stuff, you're going to attract riffraff. Now, when you lower the rent or have these incentives, you've got to still vet these people out. And and this is a system, it's real simple. It's a numbers game. How many people apply, yield how many people they're going to rent it. But if you're not getting any calls, there's something obviously wrong. Okay, so you've got to figure that out. Section 8 automatically deems that you're going to get unlimited calls. You still have to do your due diligence. A lot of people like Section 8, and that's for them for their interpretation, because they like to set it and forget it. I know a guy that was like, and it's funny, I should interview him back on the radio, but I remember I used to coach him, and he called me, my other mentor has 60 of them and he has no work. The money goes right to his bank account. I was like, it may automatically go to your bank account, but you're dealing with 60 people that have no money. So I don't know what kind of conversations that you're having, but the conversations I have with people that have money, have a goal and a vision. The people that have no money are complaining about today, about the government, about what's going on. I mean, this is an episode I did years ago. Let's start listening to people's conversations. The people that have money, they have hope, they have optimism, they have a future, they have a goal, they have a plan. But the people that are broke, that are always behind the 8-ball, are in doom and gloom, and the government's bad, and Donald Trump's terrible. And I'm not for that dude. I think that dude's a racist, and I'm pissed off, and I'm sorry, I don't want to get into that, and I've never talked about it, and you'll never hear it again. I should probably edit this out, but I'm lazy and I won't do it, so we'll keep on rolling. So the point is, you got to keep all this stuff in perspective. Now, VanCauwenbergh, when you started, how many sections? One time I think we were rolling like 20 or 25. Okay. Now, I was very active in management. Right now, I think we got about 7. And so the other question, how do you get on Section 8? Well, you have to communicate with each office, I'd recommend, and you got to fill out some paperwork. They're going to be excited, because why are they going to be excited? Because they have an unlimited supply of people that are begging for money. And I wouldn't say begging to be negative. They have an unlimited supply of people that they can't find housing for. Housing and Section 8 is in short supply. It is a demand. So again, if you just play the ratios, it could work for you, but just keep in mind, you really need to do your due diligence. And if you hire a company to do this for you, you should require that you do your due diligence on top of them. If a management company brings you a viable tenant and they're on Section 8, you need to keep aware. Here's the one thing that you need to keep aware. their motive. They need to slam tenants in there because that's the only way they get paid. So you should always scrutinize anyone that's working for you. No one will ever have the same best interest of mind for you. Keep in mind that it's not Section 8. Yep, all the deals come flying out, or all the potential prospects, but there's a delay. They have to inspect the property. So you also have to get things with a voucher. So the potential tenant has a voucher, and on that voucher, keep this in mind, has an expiration date. So the first thing you do if you're gonna vet out a Section 8 prospective tenant, make sure that their voucher is current, because they have to be in constant contact with their local Section 8 office, and if their voucher expires, you just wasted a whole bunch of time. Number 2, people get issued vouchers while they're pregnant. Ooh, what do you mean? That I had this and I have been burned royalty, and it may be on that last episode where the girl that was moving in, their voucher only had a specific number of 525, but I was renting that property for $650, anticipating that when she has her third child, it's going to go to $650. But I signed the lease with this girl at $550 or $525, and she had her baby, and I was like, hey, we need to renew this, and I got punked. Okay, so you got to know what the voucher is, and you got to know what the amount is. Now, you can raise rents, and there's maybe I should do a whole podcast on that, but this is not for that time. But there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of dirty Section 8 landlords. I get $1,000 a month for a 4-bedroom. It's out there, it's possible, but don't think that you're going to get top rent because of what everyone else is getting. And they have had, and I have negotiated with Section 8 where they've asked to lower the rent. I've had Section 8 ask me what's the marketable rent or what's the average rents in that area. I'm like, why are you asking me? And I proved it to them. I've also had good success with raising someone else's rent to increase it. Now, when I went back and looked, I've had several properties that rents are averaging about $800 in that neighborhood, and lazy VanCauwenbergh over here, set it and forget it, are still renting that property for $650. Now, when you raise the rent on somebody that's in Section 8 that's been in their house, they pay a partial. So you got to understand the game of Section 8 in general. Here, let me just give you a quick understanding of it. And if you have questions, email me or message me. You could contact me. Go to SavvyRadioShow.com. You can leave a voicemail. I have my cell phone number on there, not my real one of my ghetto ones, my burner phones. I'm just playing. You could text me on there. It's like 405-633-2526 or something like that. I don't know the number, 2526 or 2625. But you got to keep in mind that this individual, and they are paying a partial. So if your rent's $800 and they are paying $600, Section 8, they're going to have to come up with $200. Now, if you do an increase of rent to $900 and they have to come up with $300 every month, that may be a pickle for them, and they may have to move. So there's a lot of variables with Section 8 in general. I know I sound like I'm a master at it, but let me tell you, I'm not. There's a guy, Google this dude up, Robert Elder, Oklahoma City. I think he has a course on it, and he is the master Section 8. The guy's got 500, 600 properties. He's Section 8 kingpin, okay? Now, he has a whole system in place, but you got to keep in mind there's a lot of variables. So don't think you could just raise the rent up, and don't think this person can do it. Now, this house that I'm going to end this podcast with, I'll tell you about them in a minute. So how? You got to go there. You got to contact them. You got to fill out a bunch of documents. You got to get a bank account to them. You got to give them your LLC. You got to also prove that you own the property as well. So there's a double checklist, and this probably takes a week or 2 weeks, depending if you're busy or not. And keep in mind, Section 8 is stupid busy because there's 1,000,001 people trying to apply. There's lines that are waiting. I mean, one day you should just I'm about to, I'm in the spirit of giving. I think I'm going to show up at the Section 8 office and give out donuts, because I've been in that office one time and it's murder. There's little kids and little babies, noses are running, and just mama's crying because the man dissed them. And I'm like, they can't live in their home. I mean, it's a sad situation, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I commission every effing landlord out there to get some freaking donuts and show up at the Section 8 office and bless the people that are in there. I know you're angry at this tenant because they're deadbeat and they don't pay, but let's go above and beyond. And somebody needs to call me out on this, and a week from now, say, VanCauwenbergh, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you show up? I'm going to do it. How much is it going to cost me? I'm going to an event tonight. And I emailed this dude. I was like, yo, can I bring something? He's like, we already got the drinks. I was like, can I bring some cookies? We already got the cookies. And then he's like, you could bring some chips. And I was like, I'm not just going to bring one bag. I'm going to be at Sam's. And I'm like, I'm going to bring 2 bags of chips. I'm going to look OG. I'm going to walk into this party tonight with 2 bags of Doritos. And I guarantee everybody's going to eat them all. And it cost me $7 because I could have just went to Walmart, but I went to Sam's and got 2 bags for $7. And I thought to myself, what's $7? Right? $7 looks good. And it just helps and blesses people because I got invited to this party with some boys and we all have some fun. And I'm going to sting them in 5 card and I'm going to knock them out. And they will get mad. And then I'm like, should I bring my Doritos back that's left over or should I leave them? That's the question because I won't take their money. Let's get back to it. So you got to ask how. That's how you do it. Now, listen, you can listen to this podcast and you're going to either get great or you're going to get mad or you're going to get bad or you're going to get great or you're going to get happy. But you might want to ask someone else that's doing it. You're going to get a mix of responses, but this is your responsibility. You don't owe the government anything. You don't know that tenant anything. Remember, you are the boss. This is your asset. You worked really hard for this. You made some sacrifices. You didn't go out to lunch this week because you had to paint the doorknob or buy new landlord locks, and it cost $30. Someone complaining at me the other day. Landlord locks cost $30. I could get it. Okay. Hey, you don't have to use landlord locks. That's on you, homeboy. And that's how you do it. Then you market this bad boy. It's real simple. You can put Section 8 in your listing on HotPads or Craigslist. I'm telling you, your phone will blow up, or you can go to gosection8.com. And number 4, you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. You're signing a legal document with the government, the Section 8, which is a federal thing, and they don't take it lightly when you try to change stuff or there's a problem or there's a conflict. Keep in mind, here's something else you need. Number 4 is understanding you're on your own. It's the Wild West out there. There's been a time where I did a Section 8, went through, sometimes there's a delay. They're behind on their inspection, turned into 2 weeks, turned into 6 weeks. So I lost a month of rent. Now add all this up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If you're a real investor, you add up these costs, holding costs. You have to turn all the utilities on, the gas, the water, the electricity. You will have a cost. So right there's $200 just to show the bad boy. Now you should have electricity already turned on. But right now, you shouldn't have the water turned on the property because the property may be freezing. So keep all this in limbo, Section 8, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So then I moved this dude in. He lived in there for about 2-3 weeks. His rent was due. I can't find homeboy. Go to the house, knock on the door. Landlord, make sure he's not dead. I open the door. I swing the door open. I don't want to enter the property. I see boxes in his house. Dude, where are you? Section 8 paid their partial of only $200 on an $800 rental. I'm out $600. Dude's on Section 8. Section 8's great. Dude's not around. Where's homeboy? Where are you at? Can't find him. Guess what I got to do? I got to evict him. Now, this is a federal situation here. I got to cross my T's hard and dot my I's triple, and I file the eviction, hire an attorney, pay the $250. Now, next thing you know, I look at my bank account. They sucked the money out of my account. Yo, I call Section 8 in a fever. Yo, homeboy lived there, and this is what this lady said to me. He never took possession. Yes, he did, ma'am. He got the keys. I signed the lease. I walked him to the property. I took pictures the other day when I was looking for him. I thought the house was abandoned. I thought the guy died in the property. So I opened the door. I saw boxes, never entered the property. He never took possession. Talking to me like I'm some nobody. He didn't take no. So this is where you need to understand that you're not doing anybody's favors, and they're not doing you any favors. They don't owe you. You don't owe them. She said, they never got the utilities turned on in their name. Thus, they never took possession. Thus, we went into your bank account, if I was paycheck to paycheck, I would have bounced checks. They took that $600 or whatever money out of my bank account and said, "Pock you," Puck, like a goalie that missed it and they scored in the net. They pocked me, Puck. You hear me? And that has been disenchanted in my life. So I'm trying to give you a perspective. I'm not trying not to. It can go well. Now, it's real tedious. Let me give you some tricks and tips to help you sustain. Understand the game. It's a game. It's a government employee that shows up on your property and does an inspection. If you're some big, bad, rich millionaire, I probably wouldn't be at the inspection. Guess what I used to hire? I used to pay a handyman $50 to show up to inspection who was 75 years old that would be snugged up walking the property with somebody during the inspection. When they found that the outlet did not have a faceplate on there, he's like, "Ma'am, hold on, don't dock me. Let me go out to my truck and get the faceplate." There's been many times and very great inspectors that were understood the process. They don't want to come back out here because it delays the poor individual not to be able to move in. But you got to understand the game. You got to have that list, and you better go verify before you start getting into this stuff. Now, here's a tip for you. Call your local station, your local Section 8 office. Say, "Hey, would you mind doing an inspection? We're considering going live on Section 8. And that's number 4. Have an understanding. Hold on. And then number 5, the laws. Now, keep in mind, you better know your laws, fair housing laws, and you better double check everything. And you better have an ironclad lease. And there's been times where there's been questioning on leases where you can't charge certain things, you can't do certain things, and just make sure that you abide by the law. They expect you to abide by the law as well. So now that's that. Now here's my take, and then I'm going to tell you about what's going on in my world. So, man, keep in mind that these individuals, they're getting assistance. So just marinate on that. It's not a bad thing. There was a time in my family that we were on the edge of Section 8. We were on welfare, or we had to go on welfare, and then something intervened in my family's life, and that we had to move. But, and I don't know, I was a young child at the time. There is a great purpose for Section 8, right? And I don't want to say what the ratio is how many abuse it, but there is people that abuse it heavily. And one time where I remember doing an inspection with a gal, and then there was someone living in the bedroom, and then one day later, that person wasn't moving in there, and Section 8 did the inspection, and she got approved, and then the next day someone moved on in there. You get me? Could be a man, because man, or a gal, or a roommate where they were charging rent to. So, but the point is that these individuals don't have the resources. If they tear up your property, and for example, and I'm about to get into this, like let's just say their daughter or son knock a light fixture off, and a light fixture costs $100, $50 to get installed labor, and $50 to go buy it. That's $100. That's a lot of money. If your partial part of the rent is $23, and Section 8's paying $725, and their only part is $25, then $100 is a lot of money to that individual. That's 4 months of their typical rent. Who's going to pay for that? You got electrical wires hanging out. It's unsafe. Who's going to hold you to the fire? Section 8 is going to hold you to the fire. Okay. Your insurance is going to hold you to the fire. How did this house burn down? Well, their daughter hit the thing, and you have no option here. You have to repair that. That's $100. That's $100 that you lost. So again, let's add it up. Holding costs, turning utilities on, delays, and you have a risk. So Section 8 could be great. It depends on what city you're in. And keep in mind, the inspection game. So the inspection game, GAME. Let's break that down a little bit harder. So let's go into my world. So I just, Section 8 inspection has come up on a property. It's 4 pages of stuff. The interesting thing is some of the items on there are tenant responsibility. But one of the things that were on there, mold around the tub. Landlord's responsibility. Let's get, this is interpretation. Who took a shower? Who didn't clean the shower? Who didn't open the door? You see, but it's my responsibility to clean the mold around. That's one. Okay. And so this is a conflict. So now when you get this inspection, now this individual's been living in there for a couple of years, and of course there's going to be normal wear and tear, right? And it says in the law that says normal wear and tear. Well, that's that's another interpretation. What's normal wear and tear? Another thing that I read on there, replace carpet in the hallway from the water leak. Of course, I rose up on my chair and I said, property manager, when did they have a water leak? Go back to all of their text messages. Go back to all of the requests. When there's a water leak? Never was turned in. Now, who pays for this water leak? Now, we have in our lease, it's very clear. If you do not privy to us or let us know to the repair, you've got to have some responsibility to that because we want to fix it. If there was a leak, we need to fix it. It's damaging the property, and we're anal about water. So, again, Section 8 saying they're doing their job. It's my fault that there was a water leak there. It's my fault that there's bad carpet. And now, so then you have to, what I do is I take this 4-page report and I go line by line and I ask myself, is this really worth it? What does it cost to get a new tenant in? If I move, today's November 15th, and I have to let this, I have two options here. I can fix it, or I can say, no, I'm not going to fix it. And then Section 8 will say, okay, you're not going to fix it. We're going to relocate this individual. So then obviously I lost a tenant. So what I do is I take this 4-page paper and I start going through it line by line. How much is it going to cost to get a handyman there to change out this light bulb? So then I add it line by line, and then I'm like, I got to hire a handyman now to drive over there. And then he's got to go through this line by line. You got to find a good detailed handyman, because if he doesn't catch everything and then they come back and do a reinspection, you're screwed again. And it's another delay, and they don't pay the rent during the inspections if it fails. So just keep that in mind. So you got to go through this. So you get this 4-page or a 1-page in the mail. You get a copy, the tenant gets a copy. The tenant, there's listings on there, tenant's responsibility, landlord's, owner's responsibility. Then within another week, they're going to send you an inspection date that they're going to do a re-inspect. Then that re-inspect, you have to have all these repairs done by this timetable. And then again, you have costs to go out there, and I would recommend having a senior citizen or a handyman on location, because they will fail you. And I'm assuming that there'll be a little bit more graceful now, because it's just a lot of money and hassle to keep coming back out here. But if they will fail you if you don't have weather stripping on a door. And you could say, I'm going to come back and do it, and most landlords won't. Or if there's an outlet that's loose, it takes a screwdriver and it's real easy, it's a 30-second repair, they will fail you. And I understand why, because it's unsafe, because a loose wire could be an issue. So you gotta have a decent handyman going over there. And so I go through line by line, how much is it going to cost me? Can the tenant, and is this a lot of this stuff abuse from this person? Now, I went through this 4-page paper in front of my property manager, because I'm teaching this property manager how to do this. And they were already pissed off. They're like, they were already mad about it. And I'm like, well, how is the tenant, and what's their behavior? Are they someone that we're willing to work with? Are they mean to you? Have they been on time? Are they aggressive? Are they disrespectful? Because in my mind, I'm like, listen, slow your roll, chicky chicks, or property manny mans, because it's the middle of November and we could have a vacancy in January or February with snow season 2000, and you don't want a vacancy on a busted pipe. So I went line by line, and I figured it would be roughly around $300 to $500 in repairs. And there was some things that, one of the things that blew up on there, it said the garage door opener doesn't work. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I did find a work order, and we went back in March to fix the garage door opener. We've never heard anything else about the garage door opener. Now, it says on the sheet, the cool thing about Section 8, they're like, you don't have to have electric garage door opener, so you can remove it. It says either needs to be working or needs to be removed. That's one good thing about Section 8. You can either have screens or no screens, but they don't compromise on electricity. You have to have 2-prong or 3-prong. You can't have a house that has 3-prong and 2-prong. So you better walk through your crib and make sure that it's either 3-prong or 2-prong, and it has to be grounded. And that's the first thing they check. And there can't be any daylight anywhere. Like if there's a gap or a crack, and there can't be chip paint anywhere, outside or inside. So be ready for that deal. That's one scenario a lot of people get stung on. So, so I go through this whole list and I'm like, okay, they gave me feedback that this individual was abrasive before, and then the new general manager had words with this individual and shut it down back in March. I have no idea about this stuff. And we have had light conversations with this tenant since March, very little, if any, and she's paid her rent on time. But after reading through 4 pages of light globe on the outside is missing, how does that happen? Or blank and blank and blank and all this stuff. So I was like, listen, now you have to go do an inspection. So check this out. Before we made any decisions today, the property manager with another individual. So we had 2 people on property. Okay. You always should have 2 for protection. One, if you're a male, you're dealing with a female, that could be a lawsuit waiting to happen. And if it's a female and there's a male in the property, that could be an issue. So you should never enter a property with someone in it alone. Period. Now, I met this dude last week. He had a body camera on him, and he lived in Bronx, and it was like legit. He had like a $2,000 police body cam on him, and he goes into every property with a body cam. I was like, wow. And I like it. It makes sense to me because you have a lot to lose, ladies and gentlemen, sexual harassment. But I always enter a property, 99% of the time, but I always know there's a nanny cam going. There's a nanny cam coming everywhere. Someone's watching you somewhere. You need to be prepared in general. People you're successful because you got one crib. Okay. And so there's just malice out there. And so where we're at today is that we're expecting the property. Now, my instructions to the property manager, matter of factly, is like, find out what this individual is like. Is the house dirty? Do we see any roaches? And I was actually going to do an episode on roaches, and I forgot to do it. But just real quick, roaches can ruin electronics, your electricity in your whole building. I've seen a roach destroy a water heater. Do you hear me? They will get into the electronics or the igniter, and I've seen roaches die over the igniter where it won't even light. And you try to change out a several $500 water heater with, the cost for a water heater today. I've heard someone pay $1,200 for a water heater install. What in the world? So keep this in mind. A little friendly roach is looking for a flame to stay warm, dies in your igniter, in your water heater. That's a $1,200 mistake. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to help you and understand that there's a lot of variables that are going in here. So I was very instructional to the property manager. I want you to document everything. I want you to take as many pictures as possible. I want you to get the vibe of the environment. Is she or he, are they maintaining the property? Is there a dog outside? Is there a hole outside? Is there scratch marks? Take 1,000 photos, and we want to know what's going on, and so we can make a decision. If the tenant is dirty at all or disrespectful at all, we probably won't do those repairs. If the tenant is not, because I want to do the repairs because I have to do those repairs anyway, right, ladies and gentlemen, because that person may move out and I have to do it anyway. So you're going to pay the cost regardless. Now now the Section 8 is attractive. we've already passed the inspection. And another thing that came up in the meeting when I was training our property management company, I was like, the general manager said this to me: these repairs were already done when they moved in. They couldn't have moved in without these repairs. How in the world, where is the light fixture globe on the outside? But the Section 8 paperwork says it's the tenant's, it's the owner's responsibility. But we are going, now here's your option. So this is what it says on the document. Globe is missing on exterior light. makes sense. It happens, right? You change the bulb, you get busy, you forget about it. And I don't know if you lived in the hood before, but a lot of people don't have globes on a lot of light fixtures outside. It's just funny. I always look up to a property, and that's what I've been doing Section 8 for so long. I always look for the globe, and I always look for cracks. So it's just funny, because I've done a lot of in Section 8 inspections. So then I go in, so think about it. They moved in, there was a globe there. A year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, there's no globe there. Now, did a tornado come through? I get it. But it says on the piece of paper, it is the owner's responsibility to have this globe. Now, you have an option here. One, if you were a good, savvy investor, landlord, you would say, ma'am, we're going to have to charge you for this because it was on there when you got here, right? Because you've taken the property and the condition was on there. It's very clear in our lease that when things are broken that are not normal wear and tear, a globe is not wear and tear, it's glass. It doesn't wear out. So thus you are required to pay for this repair. Here we are again. Now we're standing. Section 8 is telling us, bad boy landlord, you've got to fix it. Bad boy landlord is telling, I can only afford tenant that lives in there to have to get this repair. You're in a quandrum. You're in a position now. Now granted, a globe is only $3, but it's the principle. Here you are. It's $3 off of your bottom line. It's actually cost you $5 or $10 because you're paying tax on it. Because I don't know. Well, I guess it's a repair, not an improvement. But you might want to upgrade that light fixture. All right. Well, anyway, you tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Bang, bang. If you have any questions, text or email, let your boy know. We got some great things coming up in 2019. I'm really stoked that we're bringing Investor Weekend. Yep. To Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're super stoked. Tickets just went on sale at the Early Bird Black Friday special for $75 in Oklahoma City in April. So March 8th and 9th, Chattanooga. If you're on the East Coast, we got some rock star speakers. I'm actually going to be speaking. If you haven't heard me live, I don't know if it's going to be legit, but I'm going to be talking about private money. And there's going to be some great other speakers out there. Amy Lopez. Oh, shuck it ducks. Al Williamson. It's going to be popping. So March 8th and 9th, that you're in the East Coast, it's going to be worth it. Tickets are going to be $150 normally. Right now, they're $75. Black Friday, 50% off. And the same for Oklahoma City. So, and that's in April. So you want to get your tickets, go to investorweekend.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.